Hi everyone, my name is Alex Woodside and I'm here to provide some tips and tricks to help you prepare for the NSBA 8th grade All-State Percussion Audition. In this video, I'll be covering some more specific ideas for preparing the timpani roll and timpani etude portions of the audition. If you find this video helpful, make sure to check out the other videos in this series as you prepare the different sections of the audition material. Let's start with some recommendations for the timpani roll portion of the audition. If you've seen my other videos about the mallet and snare drum parts of the audition, you can probably guess that my first recommendation is going to be to follow the instructions carefully. As of the recording of this video, the instructions on the NSBA website ask you to perform a forte piano crescendo roll from a low A ending on D over 16 counts at a quarter note equals 120 beat per minute speed. For this roll, we'll want to use the 26-inch and 29-inch timpani. If you have 4 timpani in your band room, these will probably be the middle 2 drums. Before doing anything else, make sure to tune the 29-inch drum to an A and tune the 26-inch drum to a D. You can do this by playing these notes on a piano or mallet instrument, then tuning the drum to match that pitch. It's also perfectly acceptable to use an electric tuner to tune the drums to these pitches and make sure that they are adjusted correctly. We're also going to want to use our soft rolling mallets specifically for this part of the audition. When you begin practicing your roll, remember that we never use multiple bounce or buzz strokes to roll on the timpani. Timpani rolls should always be played like mallet rolls, using fast, alternating single strokes at an even speed, like this. Your roll bass doesn't need to maintain a specific hand speed, but you'll want to find a hand speed that sustains the sound without becoming rhythmically uneven or too articulate. Before trying to play a roll for the certain number of counts with specific dynamics, practice just playing rolls at a mezzo forte dynamic for a long time to find a hand speed that produces a good, sustained sound. When you begin practicing the roll that you will play for your audition, begin with one single loud note. Let that note ring for a bit before beginning the piano part of your roll like this. If you continue making contact with the drum after the initial forte stroke, you will probably stifle some of the resonance from that original note, even if your strokes produce soft notes. Before the resonance completely disappears, begin rolling at a soft dynamic and then gradually get louder for the remainder of the 16 counts, like this. It's a good idea to practice this with a metronome to make sure that your roll isn't too long or too short. When your 16 counts are up, release the roll by playing a single note on the 26-inch drum at a forte dynamic with your right hand. Remember that this release note should be connected to the roll, both in terms of timing and volume. Don't change the speed that your hands are moving at when you move your right hand over to play the release note. It should sound like part of the roll. You also want to make sure that this note isn't dramatically louder or softer than the last part of the roll you were just playing. Again, it should sound like it's naturally connected to the roll. My first recommendation for the Etude portion of the timpani audition is, you guessed it, follow the instructions carefully. For this Etude, we're going to want to use the 32-inch and 29-inch timpani. If you have 4 timpani in your band room, these will most likely be the largest 2 drums. Before we begin, tune your 32-inch drum to an F, and tune your 29-inch drum to a B flat. You can use the 29-inch and 26-inch drums, but the F and B flat are pretty low in the range of those drums, and you'll risk letting your articulations get muddled. Also, remember that we'll want to use our felt-wrapped staccato mallets for this Etude, since we need to be able to clearly articulate faster rhythms. You'll also want to pay close attention to the time signature and tempo marking for this Etude. This Etude is in 3/8 time, which means that there are 3 beats per measure, but it's the 8th note that gets the beat. Our tempo marking shows that a dotted quarter note is equal to 84 BPM. This means that every click from a metronome set to 84 BPM is an entire measure of the Etude. Another way to think about this is to divide the metronome beat into 3 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This will be our 8th note pulse for the Etude. It will be really important for you to maintain a strong sense of pulse throughout this Etude. As a performer, it's your job to communicate the pulse to the listeners. To accomplish this, you need to have a strong sense of where beat 1 is in every measure. While we don't want to accent every beat 1, a slight emphasis to the notes that land on that strong beat can help you communicate your sense of pulse to the listener. Also keep in mind that you can't rush through your long notes. There are a lot of fast notes in this Etude, but there are also spots like measures 8 and 24 where we suddenly play a dotted quarter note. Make sure that these notes get their full value and you don't cut them short to get back to the fast notes. Another recommendation I have for the Etude portion of the timpani audition is to follow the dynamic markings carefully. While the only 3 markings in the music are piano, mezzo forte, and forte, you need to make a big difference between them. In other words, your mezzo forte needs to sound obviously softer than your forte, but obviously louder than your piano. Also keep an eye out for the crescendo in measure 16. Try to use this crescendo to connect the piano section before it to the mezzo forte section afterwards. My next set of recommendations has to do with the stickings you'll want to use when playing the rhythms of this Etude. Whenever possible, you'll want to use alternating stickings. Even if there are multiple notes in a row on the same drum, you'll get a better tone if you're using alternating stickings rather than playing multiple notes in a row with the same hand. I've also identified a few spots in this Etude that benefit from using specific stickings. In measures 4, 20, and 36, try to start the 16th notes on beat 3 with your right hand like this. This will allow your right hand to move freely from the 32-inch drum to the 29-inch drum in the next measure without getting tangled up. For the same reason, you will probably also want to start the 16th notes on beat 2 of measures 18 and 34 with the right hand like this. You'll also want to pay close attention to the rolls in measures 9, 11, 13, 16, and 28. Again, we want to use the alternating single strokes that we discussed earlier to create these rolls. It's also important to notice that all of these rolls are slurred to the note that follows them. Try to avoid leaving a gap in sound between the roll and their release note. You'll want to find a hand speed for the rolls that allows you to move smoothly to the release note without changing the rhythmic timing or sense of pulse that's created by that note. If you really want to set your audition apart from your peers in a good way, try muting the 29-inch drum during the 8th rests in measures 25, 26, 29, and 30. Immediately after the 8th note on beat 2 of these measures, Extend the back fingers of your left hand and use the side of your hand to mute the drum. In slow motion, it'll look like this. In real time, it looks more like this. This needs to be a very quick motion since you don't want to let the muting motion affect your rhythmic timing or your sense of pulse. You also want to make sure that the mallet shaft doesn't accidentally hit the head and create a new note, but we want to try to cut off all sound on beat 3 of these measures. If executed correctly, the muting action can really take your audition to the next level and show off your control and mastery of the timpani etude. I hope you find this video helpful in preparing the timpani portion of your audition. If you haven't already, be sure to check out the other videos in this series that are designed to help you with the snare drum and mallet portions of the percussion audition. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.